Martin Popoff from the Contrarians here. I wanted to continue our 50th celebration of the greatest album of all time, Black Sabbath Sabotage. I quite enjoyed putting together that little essay on Don't Start Too Late. So I wanted to do the same thing for Supertzar. Always hard to pronounce this one, but this is that great instrumental on side two of Sabotage. By the way, I can't supply a lot of my books anymore because the whole tariff thing, long story. But anyways, I can still supply both of these from martinpopoff.com, the story of the band, almost all the entire story. We get the early days and the later days kind of thing. So that's the martinpopoff.com. Um, all right, so Black Sabbath Supertzar. Here we go. I've got some notes here. Well, I've kind of got an essay here I'm going to read. I might extrapolate a little as we go, but here we go. All right. In the landscape of Black Sabbath's oeuvre, Supertzar emerges not merely as an approximately instrumental tour de force. Of course, it's approximately because of the vocals in it, wordless vocals, but as an audacious excursion into the transcendent, a girthful and monumental meditation on grandeur, authority, and the sublime. Unlike the rest of Sabotage, record steeped in aggressive riffs and lyrical cynicism, right? Supertzar abandons conventional metal tropes entirely, presenting instead a sonic tableau that is at once eerie, majestic, and deliberately alienating. Clocking in at just under 4 minutes, the track is deceptively small in duration. I mean, it is one of the longer Sabbath, might even be the longest Sabbath instrumentals, right? Yet its ambition, execution, and psychological weight render it an entire universe of sound encapsulating themes of power, ritual, and spiritual dislocation. From the very first note, the listener is enveloped in a distorted haze. The track opens with the ghostly presence of the English chamber choir. Of course, Tony's there as well. Their voices layered in a mellotron-assisted symphony that alternates between sustained harmonies and subtle oscillation of tone. There are no lyrics here, yet the vocalizations carry an almost ritualistic gravity. Each chord seems imbued with cosmic authority, the human voice elevated into an instrument of awe and intimidation. The choir's sustained pitches, occasionally cascading in arpeggiated figures, evoke cathedral ceilings, gilded icons, and a weighty sense of history. A stark juxtaposition to Sabbath's usual earthbound, riff-driven heaviness. This choice alone reflects a daring conceptual move. Sabbath is willing, in the midst of a metal album, to place their listener inside a hallowed space where the human voice becomes emblematic of both divinity and human spectacle. Tony Iommi's guitar work is restrained yet critical in Supertzar. And by that, I mean, like, there's not a lot of variation in what he's doing. I mean, it's still a pretty complicated riff, but there's so much else going on. He's almost like the drummer in this song. Rather than assert dominance, Iommi interjects subtle rhythmic motifs that punctuate the choir, weaving between minor intervals and chromatic inflections that heighten tension. These brief motifs are almost conversational, questioning, punctuating, daring the ethereal voices to respond. There is a sense of call and response embedded in the track, though the choir is wordless. So again, quite rhythmic and like I say, conversational between what's going on, all the extravagance, and then he's like picking his spots in there, right? Or all of that is added on top of his spots, I suppose. He is the anchor, he is the leader, right? The chordal structure causes a brief release. The tension between plunging again into darker tonality. The structure is minimalistic yet psychologically complex. Each musical gesture, however small, is loaded with portent, suggesting power and surveillance, ritual and judgment, or perhaps the very abstraction of fame itself, as the portmanteau title Supertzar implies. I'm trying not to use it. I don't think I use in here anywhere the word fascist, but it does sound like fascist music, kind of, doesn't it? Drumming is minimal, understated, and almost ceremonial. Bill Ward's contributions are less percussive and more textural, often delivered through cymbal swells or subtle timpani-like accents, enhancing the sense of stately progression. There is no pounding 4/4 here. The rhythm exists as an invisible scaffolding, supporting the choir and Iommi's tonal interjections while leaving the listener in a state of temporal suspension. The listener loses conventional markers of time, much as one might in a cathedral or a courtroom, which kind of lines up with the writ, of course, and the overall theme of this album, right? The listener loses. Hang on. The track exists more as an architectural space than a linear sequence. Psychologically, Supertzar is fascinating in its manipulation of tension and expectation, while the rest of Sabotage often confronts the listener with aggression, distortion, and lyrical confrontation. This track disarms. It forces introspection, presenting grandeur without context, majesty without narrative. The choir, wordless yet expressive, acts as both judge and oracle. Their sustained harmonics and occasional glissandi evoke awe and anxiety simultaneously. Listening to Supertzar is like watching a procession of authority figures whose intentions are inscrutable, beautiful, terrifying, and impossible to challenge. So there's more of your wording around the idea of fascism, right? In this sense, the song operates as a psychological mirror, reflecting our own awe, fear, and subservience to structures of power. The absence of lyrics in the conventional sense amplifies the track's intellectual and emotional ambiguity. The choir vocalizes phonetic sounds rather than words, leaving in interpretations entirely to the listener. This approach transforms the human voice into a semiotic puzzle, a pure instrument of tension and release, emotion and dislocation without narrative constraint. In a way, Sabbath is experimenting with the same psychological territory that classical composers explore in sacred music, the human voice as a vessel of power, not merely communication. This is a daring maneuver within a rock album, and it demonstrates the band's willingness to expand the conceptual and emotional vocabulary of metal. And I've always felt this about this song ever since I was a kid, 1975, hearing this as a new release, 12 years old. It was just a puzzle. Is this a heavy metal song? Is this not? Is it a classical song? It's just a brilliant fusion of both, right? Contextually, Supertzar functions as a counterpoint against the high energy, riff centric Symptom of the Universe and others on the album, of course, where other tracks thrash, protest, or obsess over control. Supertzar meditates on authority, spectacle, and ritualized observation. The track's brevity belies its density. In less than 4 minutes, the band explores musical minimalism, maximalist psychological effect, and sonic grandeur that few contemporaneous rock bands dared to attempt, maybe besides Queen. Oddly enough, in this exact same year. You think of Bohemian Rhapsody, right? Finally, the track's title, a portmanteau of Supertzar and Czar, TSAR and CZAR, TZAR as well, encapsulates its conceptual thrust. It evokes authority, spectacle, and both reverence and critique. The piece itself mirrors these themes: a display of power, an exercise in ritualized grandeur, and simultaneously commentary. I know I'm kind of going in circles here, but commentary on the spectacle of celebrity or command. Its psychological weight resides in its ambiguity. The listener is awed, unsettled, and compelled to confront authority as both abstract and intimate. Supertzar may be somewhat brief, but its effects are enduring. It demonstrates Sabbath's willingness to challenge genre boundaries, to merge metal with classical sensibilities, and to manipulate psychological tension through a minimalism due to its lack of lyrics. The track is intellectual and emotional, harrowing and majestic, and it forces the listener to inhabit a space of contemplation, awe, and subtle fear. As perhaps the knife-edge statement on Sabotage, it leaves a lingering, almost spectral impression, a reminder that Black Sabbath's vision extended far beyond the riff, beyond the verse and chorus, into the realm of psychological architecture and sonic ritual. In summary, Supertzar is a unique and essential part of Black Sabbath's legacy. It is a study in sonic minimalism, psychological tension, and musical audacity, a track that simultaneously celebrates and interrogates grandeur. And I like that about it. I mean, I think the main interrogation is really through the title itself. That's really setting you up. And is it an interrogation on authority? And we know the whole rest of the album is about authority as well, right? It achieves what few rock compositions can, the creation of a fully realized emotional and conceptual world. And that I believe as well. It's like a snow globe song. You know, I've got that podcast episode about snow globe bands, right? It is a work of profound imagination, a daring experiment, and a quietly devastating sound sculpture upon one of the band's most adventurous albums. So there you go. That is my contemplation of Supertzar. Here we are on the 50th anniversary of Sabotage. Check out my audio podcast as well, History in 5 Songs with Martin Popoff. Check out Grant's channel, Grant's Rock Warehaus. You can join our Patreon and be part of panels that we do. Check out my big, massive latest books here, the Maiden book, the Deep Purple, and the Dio. Those are all available at martinpopoff.com. go listen to some Supertzar.